Hello retro gamers and welcome to another video where we do something a little bit different. I had a couple of days off from work, so I thought I may as well try this. A few days ago, one of my favorite YouTubers, the 8-Bit Guy, released a video where he tried a few different techniques of de-yellowing consoles like these two here, which looking a bit yellow, looking a bit rough. And there's one technique he did in the video where basically he got some Peroxide developer at 12% and a black tub, and basically just put these in the tub, put them outside in the UV light, covered it up with some clear plastic to sort of emphasize a greenhouse effect. And after 6 hours, he pulled them out, rinsed them off, and they were pretty much good as new. They looked as great as the day they were probably bought. So I'm going to be doing that today with both this NES and this Super Nintendo. For those who've been watching the channel for a while, may recognize this NES from a couple of other videos from, I don't know, maybe last year, maybe even the year before that, where I was basically like, I bought this non-working in parts and I fixed it up and I did a couple of videos. And at the end of the second video, I did say there would be a part 3 where I de-yellowed it. So I completely forgot about it, if I'm going to be honest. But today's the day. And I thought, while I'm at it, this Super NES is looking a bit average, so I'll do the same thing. Just for comparison, here is my Super Famicom from Japan. The actual casing itself is exactly the same, so you can sort of see what it's supposed to look like, and this is what it does look like. So first off, I'm gonna disassemble it, gonna give it a bit of a rinse in the sink. This still has a little sticky residue on it, so gonna get rid of all that and just generally give it a clean, and then we'll be ready to put it out in the sun. So to start off, I had to remove some of the packing tape that was still on it from when it arrived, and this kind of sucked because it just left a lot of residue, but it was great to finally get it all removed. From there is just removing 6 screws on the base of the NES, and these are just normal Phillip head screws, and please take them out more elegantly than this. Once that's finished, you just take off the top, and then there's just a bunch more screws to take off the RF shielding. And once that's removed, there's just a bunch more screws there, pretty predictable I guess. Once they're all removed, you can then finally take out the main MOBO. Before you take the MOBO out though, it's probably not a bad idea to take this front panel off that's for the 2 controller ports. Again, these are just 2 smaller screws and that just comes right off. There's also 2 longish screws for the cartridge slot, but that basically just holds it in. You don't need to remove the actual cartridge slot itself. From there you can then remove 3 connectors, 2 for the controllers, 1 for the front panel. And then there are just 2 more screws to get the last module out that has the 2 front buttons on it. To open this NES is a little bit more involved. They have special Nintendo screws, so you need a special bit that you can buy on eBay for a few dollars to get those out. And then that just comes apart, and then that's when I realized that there was broken bits on the inside, which would explain all the rattling. And on further inspection, this appears to be a bit of plastic that holds in a screw, but oh well. And then, as you've probably guessed, it's time to unscrew more screws, but luckily these are back to the normal Phillip head, so you don't need any special security bit or anything like that to do so. And there is quite a few on the SNES. It's from here that you can also remove the controller port module. There's just a ribbon cable that comes out, but don't tug on it too hard because it may break. And then you can just remove this little mechanism for the cartridge, just a bit of plastic with a bit of metal in it, and that just comes right on out as well. And make sure you don't lose all the bits, there's 3 or 4 little bits together. And from there, the RF shield comes out, and the rest of the MOBO should as well, assuming you've removed all the screws. It was also here that I removed the little cover for the expansion bay that was never used to my knowledge, and for some reason this is not yellowed like everything else, so we can use that as a control piece. I also decided not to bother with a bit of plastic on the controller port since it didn't look too bad. It was just quite gunky, but nothing that rubbing alcohol and some paper towels could fix, and I turned my attention to the top bit of the case. There's quite a lot of bits and pieces in here, so it was quite a bit of fun to sort of get everything out, but it's pretty self-explanatory if you look at it. Most things are just held in by clips, so you basically just gotta undo the clips and then it all comes out. There's really only the 1 screw, which was for the little mechanism for the cartridge loader. Even though I'm only going to be de-yellowing the actual white bit of the case, I will be washing all these parts because they were mighty gunky, and the main bit itself was particularly gross, so I was pretty happy to get that ready for the sink. And yeah, for this I just started scrubbing in warm soapy water and then rinsed it in another basin that just had clean water in it. I didn't use really hot water because I was, really old plastic. It's probably quite brittle by this point. A lot of it's, 30 years old. So I just gave it a bit of a rub, mostly just getting all the residue off the NES was probably what most of the work was. And then a lot of the gunk off the Super Nintendo as well. It was all, that was super gross. So I was happy to get rid of all of that. And then there were just all the smaller parts as well, which are all quite gunky. So it was good just to give those a bit of a wash and a bit of a rinse, and then they will be left out for drying. So the peroxide I will be using will be this Innovate branded one. It was really the first one I found. For those Australians watching, I found this in Priceline in Australia. It cost $9. And this is 12%, 40 vol, whatever that means. The crate itself, I just found that in Bunnings, $10, pretty easy to find. You could probably buy this in a lot of different places. As I was laying out all the console bits in the tub, I was trying to sort of have them all so they're all as separated as possible, although the tub was probably a little bit too small for this, but I made it work. And from there, I just filled it up with normal hose water, and I just filled it up enough so that everything was covered. And like the 8-bit guy, I did have to put a rock on the NES bit as well because, it didn't want to stay down. And then I just unloaded the whole bottle in there. I'm not really sure how much I was supposed to put in, but I thought, well, I'm only really going to do this once, so might as well just put all of it in there. And then like the 8-bit guy, he put a big sheet of clear plastic over it, and I couldn't really find anything like that, so I just used Glad Wrap. It seemed to work pretty well. I was worried about it coming off, but it stayed there the whole time. And then with it all ready to go, there was nothing left but to wait. The 8-bit guy left it for 6 hours, so I thought I would do exactly the same. And in that time, there was nothing else to do except for play video games and maybe have a bit of a nap. So through the magic of video editing, we cut to 6 hours later to 4:30 in the afternoon. Sun is starting to set, and I decided to pull them out. And the first thing I noticed is that the water wasn't hot. The 8-bit guy's was. Pulling it out, I couldn't really see much of a difference, unfortunately. It was quite disappointing. There may have been a bit of improvement. Luckily, none of the logos or the stickers came away or rubbed away, so there was that at least. Nothing was damaged from what I can tell. But, I don't know, the difference in yellowing? I don't know, it's arguable at the most. I did it on a nice clear sky, there was no clouds, plenty of sunshine, but unfortunately there is a lot of trees where I live, so I think it was in a bit of shadow for a good part of the day. And plus it's winter right now, so yeah, it didn't really heat up. I don't know if any of that really makes a difference, but yeah, a bit disappointing really. So after that there was nothing more else to do except to pull them out and rinse them off. So in conclusion, I am a little bit disappointed it didn't turn out as well as it did for the 8-bit guy. Mine is still quite yellow compared to his Macintosh LC2. At the very least, they did get quite a bit of a clean. I've only partially disassembled them here for this video for time reasons. But they were quite sticky and gunky before, so at the very least I did get a bit of a scrub. I've been thinking about it the last couple of hours though, and I've been trying to figure out how his process differed to mine. The biggest thing that I've noticed is that his peroxide was quite clear going into the tub, while mine was quite cloudy. So I'm not too cluey on the science of it all, but that may have had something to do with it. Maybe the cloudy nature affected the amount of sunlight and UV rays it was getting. The sunlight itself was also a bit different. There was lots of shade where I was doing it. I basically live in the bush, so it was very hard to find a spot where it was getting direct sunlight for most of the day. And the fact that it's winter may have affected it. Like I mentioned before, he said his water was quite hot to the touch, being summer over there, while it was still icy cold even after 6 hours outside. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the subject though. If you have any comments, any thoughts on how you think it may have gone wrong, then please let me know. If you have any other ways of doing it that you've worked that has worked to, for a lack of a better way of saying it, then yeah, please let me know. But otherwise, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.